How can the Golden State Warriors start a new dynasty? As Matthew McConaughey once said, sometimes you got to go back to actually move forward.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Warriors. Thank you for making it your first listen of every single day. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. We've hit the dog days of summer, and, the sports stop sporting like we want them to. We got the tennis tournaments, some golf out there, but the big fellas, they're done right about now. Fortunately, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster bonus. That makes things interesting, and you get them daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Big time guest on the show today. I'm going to ask him how many Emmys he's won, but he's KPIX sports anchor, Mr. Involvement, a former co-host of mine, Vern Glenn. How we doing, brother? Good to see you.
Man, we're feeling good, man. It's always there's always something going on out here on the left coast. I've got work here. Jay Will just walked in, and when I'm not working, I'm trying to arrange this golf tournament, my first ever golf fundraiser. So those two things have just dominated my life. And next week, I get to spend 2 days in San Diego at Comic-Con. I promised the boys that we would go, and we're going.
Oh, Vern Glenn's going to be in a Batman outfit, saving some crime. I love that, man. I love that. Steph Curry's been the Batman for the Golden State Warriors for a long time, and we're going to talk about what happens when Steph Curry is no longer a Golden State Warrior, because every NBA championship team, they need the Incredible Hulk. They need the Batman. They need the superpowers. Do the Warriors have that in the system right now? And we're also going to break down just some stories of your time covering the Warriors and trying to see if there's any parallels between this current era and the era that you really started covering back in the day. So that's where I want to begin, because, you've been in this market how many years, Vern? 20 plus, obviously.
Just started my 35th.
35 years in the Bay Area. So Vern knows the Warriors as well as just about anyone. He was covering this team back when, Raymond Ritter used to hit you up and offer you guys players in studio. He said, hey, can we get some coverage? We get the Giants are winning championships, World Series, but can we get some coverage here? So with that being said, let's take it back to, 2008, 2009, where the Warriors are consistently losing. All of a sudden they bring in Steph Curry. They follow that up with Klay Thompson. They follow that up with Draymond Green. Behind the scenes, like, when did the interest start to really fester up for Warriors fans? Was it overnight, or was it like as soon as Curry came there, you really saw things change in terms of the culture?
As soon as Joe Lacob and Peter Guber bought this team, once they did that, they just went to work, because to know Joe Lacob, he is a very demanding guy that has gotten to the top of his venture capitalist profession and has clawed and scraped, and he takes that same mentality to this Warriors ownership. He wanted to be the best, no matter how much it cost, no matter what he had to do. So when he bought that team, he didn't buy it to keep it in Oakland. He bought it to move to San Francisco eventually. But let's go back to the Oakland years. He buys the team, Peter Guber, they're all part of it, and he came in talking big. We're going to take this to great heights. We're going to bring this back to the top of the NBA. It's going to be the 1975 good feels yet again that the Warriors had when they won the championship. So then he started making some moves, and the first thing he did. Now remember, when Curry was on the team, he wasn't the star of the team. It was Monte Ellis
and David Lee.
Monte's team. So the first thing he did was he went out and he hired a coach that had no experience, third all time in assists. Anyway, he brings in Jerry West. So he brings in all these people that are like in the know, all these basketball people to kind of tinker and work around and try and do something with the roster. And so that happened. And then Chuck, I can remember it like it was yesterday. It was the night that Chris Mullin was having his jersey retirement. It's a big deal. It was a packed house, and he had just traded Monte Ellis. So he was gone. So Monte Ellis has been traded a few days before. We have the Chris Mullin jersey retirement. They do at halftime of this game. And Lacob comes up there, he grabs the mic, and he just started talking about the moves that were made, and it's all for the better. He paused once, and then somebody from the rafters said, "We miss Monte," and then a chorus of boos started cascading down. I mean, and I felt bad for Chris because this was Chris Mullin's night. I mean, number 17 was going to be up in the rafters, but there was just, every time Lacob opened his mouth, he was just soundly booed. You couldn't even hear him talk. And then it got even worse because Rick Barry came in and he grabs the mic. "Hey, listen, you people, this man's trying to change things here." And then he just made it even worse. I mean, it was unbelievable. I would say that was probably the lowest part of Joe's ownership at the very beginning. But they get through that night, and as you said, they came out of nowhere. Nobody was expecting this. I mean, there was quite a show because what Curry and Thompson were doing from 3-point range was beyond belief. And then you had the national haters out there. You had Barkley. A jump shooting team is never going to win the NBA championship. It's just not going to happen. And then what do the Warriors do? They go out and they win the NBA.
Win 4 of them. Yeah.
I feel like the Warriors, I think they're going to rely on their depth, and they're going to try and find somebody to step up, whether it's Bajimski, Moody, whatever at the 2. It'll be somebody that's got to step up and learn how to play with Curry. And for Kerr, maybe they have to change the way they play. Maybe they have to get away from the motion off the ball, and just kind of find another way. So,
well, they brought in Terry Stotts, right, Vern? They brought in Terry Stotts to change up the offense a little bit. I don't think the motion's going anywhere, but maybe some more packages inside the motion to where they can add in some different players stylistically, and they have done that this offseason.
Yeah, but they used to have those guard. They used to have the defensive player that could just shut you down, and I think they need to try and find that. And if they can't find that, then maybe they wait till late December or January, and then find out what's there then.
Coming up, we're transitioning to what the Golden State Warriors should do next. Attack now, try to win one for Steph Curry, or just, kind of wait and see what you got in the fold. I'm a big fan of sports, and I'm sure you are as well if you've gotten to this part of the show. You're at least a fan of the NBA, but I never want the sports to stop. And this time of the summer where it becomes the dog days, the sports just stop sporting like I want them to. But FanDuel lets the sports keep going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. Cricket? Sure. You got it. Why not? And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That is right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And I have a little play for you, for those of you out there that want to sprinkle. Plus 420 on the Philadelphia Phillies. They have the pitching right now. Zach Wheeler, superstar. Ranger Suarez, maybe Cy Young. The offense is loaded. The fact that Nick Castellanos is like 7th in the lineup. Alec Boehm is having an incredible season. Bryce Harper is pretty good. JT Realmuto is going to be back soon. The list goes on and on of why the Philadelphia Phillies at plus 420 are my pick. So I'm trying to pinpoint how the next core looks for the Golden State Warriors, because as of right now, it doesn't seem like they have a ton of structure if they were to trade. Like, I see the vision of this technically. It still seems like the 2-timeline plan that the Warriors are on. Everyone says, oh, the 2-timeline plan, it failed so miserably. Mm-hmm. I mean, you traded James Wiseman, sure, and got Gary Payton in return for him. So that part of it failed. But Jonathan Kuminga is a part of this 2-timeline. Moses Moody's still on the team. Now, the fact that they've offered him to Lauri Markkanen or to Utah for Lauri Markkanen tells me that he's probably the lowest of their priority between those three, and maybe four, with Trayce Jackson-Davis being one of the young stars as well. But then Brandon Bajemski, who Joe Lacob said on Wednesday during the summer league that he believes they have an all-star in the making. They love his IQ. They love his ability to shoot. They love how he rebounds for a smaller guard, and he can potentially put up triple-double numbers on a semi-regular basis. So that's where
I love the confidence that he has in himself.
Great confidence, man. You saw him
he says, I'm ready to step up and take that role.
Yeah, he wants that C on his chest. And you saw him, step up at Santa Clara under Herb Sendek and kind of go from, hey, this guy was a big recruit.
They're 6-0 in summer league.
Yeah, they are, man. And they signed Daquan Plowden. They add some pieces, but correlating this young nucleus right now to what you saw in the last dynasty, because you just told me that it came out of nowhere. And obviously you can't compare Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green to Jonathan Kuminga, Trayce Jackson-Davis, and Brandon Bajemski. It's just unfair. You're not going to get multiple draft classes back-to-back where you have 3 Hall of Famers. It just does not happen. However, you can still build dynasties in other way, starting with one very, very good player, which some think it could be Jonathan Kuminga, but it sounds like the Warriors believe they think it could be Brandon Bajemski, and he could be a star in the making. Do you see any correlation? Not by the way they play, but by the way this team is set up, and that team back in the early 2010s were set up, or is it going to be a completely different rebuild? Is there going to be a rebuild? Is it a retool? Like, give me your overall thoughts on what's taking place right now in the changing of the guard.
I think so long as you have number 30 in there and he's effective and gets his touches, I think the Warriors you can't ignore them. So long.
Would you make a trade? Would you make a trade
to make a trade?
Because it's tough. You're giving up draft picks in addition to a Bajemski.
But I have found this out though. I mean, nothing happens with that team. Nothing's talked about with that team without Curry being involved. He is either in the room or he has some kind of tie. I mean, he is in the know to everything that team is doing. And from what I found out, if it involves mortgaging a little bit of the future, he's down with it. He just wants to get out there and still kind of be relevant. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He has a chance in August to agree to an extension if he wants. I think that would be great if he did. But getting back to what I was saying before, they have to be ready to change the way they play if they're going to be able to move forward. I don't see this as a team that's just going to just make like a wild trade or really kind of give up something that's valuable to them in order to, Paul George is one thing. I mean, they really tried to get Paul George. I mean, they really thought they were going to get, and it just didn't work out. So that's why I'm thinking that maybe there is not a move to be made until January hits. They would have a handful of games to see how they play. They would have been able to figure out which packages work and which packages don't in the rotation, and to see if they can be effective and win some games. That's why I feel like they're gonna wait and see what happens with the guys they've got. I mean, they got 12 guys on the team that could be rotation guys.
This is a tough question because the two timelines when everything was going smooth and you win the NBA championship and Wiggins and Poole get paid and you think that you can run this back for a while and that Wiseman can be your cornerstone and that Kuminga is going to blossom into a star, and you won an NBA championship and somehow the year prior had a number 2 draft pick. Like, that does not happen. And that is how, if you swing and you hit a home run with it, now the Warriors obviously swung in the dirt and missed, but if you swing and hit a home run with it, that is how a dynasty turns into another dynasty. Now, obviously that didn't happen. One of the big events that popped into it was Draymond Green punching Jordan Poole. After that moment, everything was out of sync. Poole never played the same way. The chemistry has been off since, and that team was good. I mean, they took down a really good Sacramento Kings team in the playoffs, and fought tooth and nail with the Lakers to at least give them a game, not a series, but give them a game in most of the games in that series. But with Jordan Poole getting punched by Draymond Green, and Draymond Green ending up getting rewarded with an extension, I know he's a Hall of Famer. He's the heartbeat. He's the oil that runs the engine at the end of the day. But does it shock you at all that they have been so loyal to Draymond despite all the negatives that he's brought away from the whistle being blown?
An NFL exec told me years ago, he said, Vern, look, we will let you see and let you know what we want you to know. And that translates from the NFL to the NBA to Major League Baseball. We will always be on the outside looking in. I don't care if you're a beat writer. I don't care if you're Mark Thompson. Things that occur in that building, the dirty laundry that they wrestle with and sort out or whatever. There are things that we will never, ever know because of what happens in that building. So outside looking in, does it look like they're really, really loyal to Draymond Green? Yeah, of course they are. But at the same time, there's a reason that Steph Curry over and over and over again says, we can't win without him. We cannot win without him. Why? Well, I mean, we don't know. We don't go to practices. Well, we don't really see the inner workings of the bond that these guys have and really kind of how they do things. These are just things that we'll never know and will never be a part of and never be let in on. So am I surprised? Maybe sort of, because if it happened in our business, those things wouldn't be tolerated. But there's a reason why Draymond Green is a beloved employee of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, so Vern Glenn's take. This is what I've gotten from his appearance on the show today, and I appreciate you hopping on, is that the Warriors should just kind of play wait and see mode. See what things are looking like around the All-Star break when the trade deadline hits. See if the nucleus we're talking about, the Brandon Bajemskis, the Jonathan Kumingas, the Trace Jackson Davis, the Moses Moody's, if they can be pieces that you rely on in the future. And if not, you start to throw their names out to other executives around the league. You see what other GMs are looking for. You see how much they value them. And then you kind of go from there. Maybe a Giannis becomes available. Maybe it's not Giannis, but it's somehow there's a trade involving Trae Young. And I know that would be outside the box. That would probably have to involve San Antonio and draft picks and a bunch of different things. But things change all the time. And I know someone's listening like, no, we're not getting smaller. We're not adding in Trae Young to play with Steph Curry. Like, we want Giannis. We want, hell, we'll take Tobias Harris for his three-point abilities or Cam Johnson for his three-point abilities. But it does sound like, and this is kind of the logical approach that a lot of people have, wait and see. You may not be a championship contender, but Warriors could have a pretty decent team, even if none of the things we talked about, even if Kuminga doesn't take that next step, and Bajemski's just a pretty good player and not an all-star, and Trace Jackson Davis is solid. You still have Steph Curry. You still have Draymond Green, assuming he could play all the games out there, and they'll be pretty good, and you'll at least know the direction of the future. Whereas if you bring in Lowry Markkanen, if you bring in Jimmy Butler, if you try to hemorrhage the future, you give away these draft picks, and the fit just does not work out, then that's how you get yourself into NBA jail for a long time. And that's the last thing you want, Vern, because you covered the Warriors when they were in NBA jail. And I imagine it wasn't nearly as much fun as the last decade's been.
Think about this. Half of the time I've spent in this market, 17 straight years, the Warriors were not in the playoffs. Think about that. 17-year drought from being in the playoffs in the early 90s to being part of it again in the 2000s. You know what, Chuck? We haven't even talked about Buddy Hield yet. He better be good. He better hit those threes. I mean, what if he goes
he's gonna hit those threes, Vern. He's gonna hit those threes. But we had Brian Day on the show, and he's the resident Indiana Pacers fan, and he kind of told the public what I believe about Buddy Hield, and that's that he's a sharp shooter. He's someone that can fill up the stat sheet, but so many guys can fill up the stat sheet in the NBA. I mean, that's what Jordan Poole did.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's not all about that. It's about finding pieces that fit with their intangibles, with IQ, with different roles. But, Warriors needed a shooter to replace Klay Thompson. So you're not going to complain about that signing whatsoever. I just don't think he is someone that's going to step in and all of a sudden, hey, Warriors got Buddy Hield. They got their splash buddies. They're going to go win an NBA championship. That's just my take on it.
Well, there's the old saying, shoot your shot. And the Warriors, they essentially tried to do that with, Paul George out there. I know there was thought of maybe DeRozan, but he's a Sacramento King now. I mean, there were other priorities.
They're hunting, and they'll still be hunting. Joe Lacob said that. Yeah.
Yeah, there were other priorities ahead of Klay Thompson, which eventually led to, Klay feeling like, well, I'm not a priority, and let me have a little change of scenery. This all stemmed from a round of golf with Joe Lacob and Klay in May, and no business was talked during the whole round. And then 2 weeks later, Thompson's agent calls the Warriors and says, hey, free agency's coming up. Let's take care of number 11. And they're like, yeah, but we got these other things like in front of us right now. We'll get to that. And then it just never happened. And that's when Klay's like, all right.
Yeah.
I gotta go.
I ask everyone in the comments, leave your favorite Golden State Warriors memory in the last 15 years. Vern's already shared kind of the low when Joe Lacob was being booed on the Chris Mullin jersey retirement night. But what was your favorite moment during this dynasty that, could potentially go on, but it's going to look different without Klay Thompson?
I would say my favorite moment in this dynasty was when they won the last one in Boston. I'm doing a live shot. Had to be 2 a.m. Boston time in Tea Garden, and walking over to the Leprechaun and laying down and getting my picture on the Leprechaun center court. That was that was a moment that I will always remember. And the great Alex Louie, cameraman, was with me when we did that. And just what had to happen for those pieces to come together, and for Andre Iguodala kind of giving of himself and sacrificing his minutes to be a part of a fourth championship. I will always remember that.
All right, Vern, I got to send you out on a good note. I said I didn't know how many Emmys you'd won at the beginning. I've since pulled that up. The 5-time Emmy-winning journalist, Mr. Vern Glenn. Thank you for joining the show today. Appreciate it. And give everyone from Channel 5 my love, and we'll talk soon, my friend.
You got it, man.
All right, coming up, we're talking about Steph Curry. How long can he go? We're comparing him to other sharpshooters, how long they went, and when their stats started dropping off. So this is a big question that I have, and I think it's going to be brought up quite a bit over the next few years, especially by the national media pundits. They're always looking for something to talk about. You know that every time Steph Curry has a bad game, they're going to start asking that question. Is Father Time catching up to number 30, who's now 35 years old? Last year, absolutely not. Curry played in 74 games, logged 32 minutes per game, was NBA All-Third Team, and was an all-star. Again, averaged 26 points per game, shot at 40% from deep. A lot to love there. In fact, Curry shot at over 40% in every one of his seasons but one. That was 21-22, where he shot 38%. And then I guess if you count in the season where he only played 5 games, he shot it below 40%, but we're not counting that. So one season in his 15, that is remarkable. And I want to do a little exercise where I compare Steph Curry to two of the greatest shooters I've seen in my generation, quite frankly, and two guys that really relied on their stamina to sprint around the baseline, to get open, catch and shoot off the dribble, whatever it may be. And that was Reggie Miller and Ray Allen. When did those guys start to decline? Is Steph Curry's decline coming around that age? And the answer is no, because first of all, Curry just finished year 35, and I mentioned was an all-star, averaged 26 points. Let's start with Reggie Miller. Reggie Miller at age 34 was the last all-star season he had, and the numbers were never as high as Steph Curry. Don't get me wrong. He wasn't getting off as much volume. He wasn't making as many threes. Now, the percentage, it was still pretty good. He shot it at 40% that year when he was 34 years of age, but still had a few more years in him after that. Really until he hit 37, Reggie Miller was a big-time player in the NBA. Once he hit 37, those 17 points dipped down to 12, and retirement was imminent for him. And the last 3 seasons of his career was still a starter for the Indiana Pacers, but it was just different. His minutes went down from, 36 minutes a game to down to 30 and 28, and finished his last season playing 31 minutes. So 37 is the age I look at where Reggie Miller finally, father time, 1,000% caught up to him, and he was never really the same player. Now, you could say 34 because he was never an all-star after that, but was still a pretty good player and someone that you could build a championship contender around. Because quite frankly, Indiana had some championship contenders those years after his prime. Ray Allen, on the other hand, Ray Allen's last All-Star appearance was at age 35. So Steph Curry's current age was the last time Ray Allen made an All-Star appearance. And really his numbers started dipping after he got traded from Seattle to Boston. Now, we all know, obviously, why those numbers started slipping. It's because Boston had Paul Pierce, they had Rajon Rondo, they had Kevin Garnett. Seattle was not the same way. It was really the longevity that hurt him the next season, playing in only 46 games. The minutes started to decline, and then after that, it was everything that started to decline for Ray Allen. The shooting went down from 45% to 41%, and then his last season in Miami went down to 37%. Ray Allen, from age 35, where he averaged 17. That was cut in half by the time he hit 38 at 9 points per game. So the exercise I'm coming up with here, and granted, it's impossible to compare two situations because Steph Curry was light years better than Reggie Miller and Ray Allen ever were, and that's with all due respect to those two Hall of Famers. But it's just the truth of the matter. But if this exercise teaches us anything, it's that age 38 is probably the time where Steph Curry, you would imagine, starts to dip a little bit. Now, I know Joe Lacob on the Athletics basketball podcast the other day said, he starts comparing him to Tom Brady and says, maybe we get Steph Curry into his 40s. That would involve Steph Curry obviously signing another extension or deal with the Golden State Warriors, as his current one gets him up to about 37, 38 years old, which is the age that I think a lot of people would assume that Father Time finally gets to him. So if that's the case, you get 2 more seasons of prime Steph Curry. Then why does the Lowry Markkanen deal make so much sense? You can look at it from 2 angles. One, you can look at it from the angle of if they bring in Lowry Markkanen right now, then Steph Curry is going to have the second best player on the team for 2 seasons. And if you're just getting rid of Brandon Podziemski and the picks and Moses Moody, you still have Jonathan Kuminga, and you can kind of have a 3-headed monster and have a serious chance to go for it. A lot of people say Lowry Markkanen's just not that type of player. He's going to be a nice fit, but if you're paying him the type of money that he's going to be expecting once he is extension eligible, you're looking for a cornerstone player, and Lowry Markkanen is not that cornerstone. And then when Steph Curry does hit 38 and Father Time inevitably catches up to him, if that were the case, then you're paying Lowry Markkanen like he's your cornerstone, and you're kind of caught in this bind of like, all right, we're going down to Chase to see Lowry and the Dubs, and they're not that great. because Lowry's not that guy. So that's kind of the experiment that I'm going with here. And leave in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, like, how long do you think Steph can go? I asked him this question, a little shameless plug from back in my reporting days in the Bay Area. I asked him, like, how long can you go? What's the secret sauce to longevity? And here was his answer.
It's a great question. I feel like I talked to Tom Brady at one point about how he's, at the point in his career where he's, still playing at a high level at 44, whatever it is. And his example and his advice was just to take it a year at a time. There's no way to fast forward. It's not how you got to this point, so don't rush yourself to think about how long you can do it. Your body will tell you, and I don't see myself slowing down anytime soon.
If we've learned anything from Steph Curry this summer in the Olympic Games, or at least the exhibitions that he's been playing in, it's that he's not slowing down this season. So at the very least, you have another season of NBA all third team or second team, or at least all-star level Steph Curry to really try and win a championship with him before he's gone. The big question that we've been trying to answer for the last few weeks is, what is the smartest way to do it? Is it to mortgage some of that future right now? And according to Vern Glenn earlier on the show, he thinks that Steph Curry has a large hand in all this, and I would 1,000% agree with that. So what does Steph Curry want to do? Is he about bringing in a big-time player before this season starts? Can he kind of wait and see? Let's check out how good this team is. We'll decide on the back end. Charlie Walter, Locked On Warriors. Until next time, saying have a great day, everyone, and we will talk soon.